Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive, to recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize, with phasers set to stun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Phaser Set to Stun, where we continue our show of love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film Vibe podcast, which focuses on every quadrant of the expanding universe of Trek by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and more. Plotting the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I'm David Burns.
I'm Scott Hoffman.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
We continue our journey in the 32nd century with Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 5. Black alert, spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen this episode, please stop, go view it, and come back to join us. Wayne, please give us a synopsis of this newest episode.
And the episode is entitled Mirrors, written by Joanna Lee and Carlos Cisco, directed by Jen McGowan. Following the trail left by Mullen Locke, the USS Discovery discovers an unstable wormhole, and when Burnham and Booker enter the wormhole with using a shuttle, they find the remains of the ISS Enterprise after its escape from the Mirror universe. Burnham retrieves the next piece of the progenitor's puzzle on board, along with a clue to find the next one, but becomes stranded on board the Enterprise along with Maul and Lack, and are forced to strike a deal with the pair if they hope to get out of the wormhole alive.
So, gentlemen, how about seeing the ISS Enterprise? 57 years ago was the last time we saw it? Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Pretty interesting to see that. Wayne, you said we were going to see the Enterprise. We just didn't know which one, right?
Yeah, that's right. We knew it was coming because we saw that shot in the trailer, that very brief shot, and I predicted last episode that it would be in this one. And I really guessed that it was going to be the Mirror Universe one just because of the title of the episode. That's really the only reason I'm like absolutely pleased that for once my predictions are right. I'm terrible at predicting things. Scott, remember my prediction for Lower Decks with the mysterious ship? I thought it was going to be from the Mirror Universe.
Oh, yeah.
I was really off on that one. So, plus, I accurately guessed that Locke was Breen too.
You did.
And I just pulled that out of my ass. So, I'm thrilled about it.
Well, you're 2 for 2 on this episode, buddy. So well done.
No matter where it comes from, you were still right.
That's right. Yeah. So we're continuing the good episode that we had last episode because this one was just as good. I was very involved in this story. Again, the special effects were fantastic.
They were.
With the wormhole opening and closing, how unique that was in itself. But so much in this episode happened, but not to jump to the end real quick, but how they pulled the Enterprise through the wormhole and then getting them out of it and then watching it implode, that was just such an incredible scene.
It was. Yeah. Very impressive.
Yeah.
I think it's so I don't know if this is accurate. I'm going to trust that IMDb knows what they're talking about, but according to the IMDb, this is the 900th episode of the Star Trek franchise.
Oh, it is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Which is kind of so it seems like it's kind of appropriate with this episode because you get crossover with Strange New Worlds. Obviously, it's Discovery. You get DS9 crossover with the Breen, and you get obviously the through thread of the progenitors with Next Generation. So there's a lot of connections in this one.
There's a lot of connections in this one, huh?
And the original series with the ISS Enterprise.
Right. Exactly.
That's true. Yeah. So this episode really gives us the background of Mullen Locke, and we finally get to see how they met and their involvement with one another and what's going on. And I gotta say, I was very involved with their story because I wanted to know what was going on with them. But it really made me appreciate these two characters a whole lot more than I started off with at the beginning of the season, which I was still interested in them. But this one gave me a lot more of their characters that I wanted to dive into. And I got to tell you, and I think I've mentioned this almost in every episode that we've covered in Discovery this year, but the editing is phenomenal
It is.
In this episode, how they kept going, how they edited it back and forth, going to the past with Moen Locke and then coming to the present day. Some of those shots, how they just transitioned, were incredible.
Yeah. It does a lot to help to tell the story, and it makes it so it's not so jarring when you're going between past and present. I absolutely agree that they're hitting their stride with this. I'm definitely more engaged with the main thread. Definitely more invested in Moen Locke. I think it's I had said last time I was assuming that something with mirrors would not only include what Wayne had said about mirror universe, but that there would be kind of parallels that we're seeing between Michael and Booker and Moen Locke, with Mul's origins as a courier, Locke being somebody who is in a certain position that's kind of expected within his society, getting a chance to break out and be something more. I'm really glad that that's where they're starting to go with these characters and give them more depth and give them more what we had seen last time, where it was kind of like they're on the run. It makes so much more sense what they're doing now, knowing about the I'm not going to try to pronounce the word, but basically like a what do they say in Star Wars? It's a death, something had a death bounty or something like that. It's hard to shake. So the equivalent of that with the Breen. Knowing that if they don't make a deal like this, there's no way that they'll ever stop running.
We learned a lot of backstory. There was a lot of story in this episode, and it was a lot to process. I will admit, but I thought the episode flowed nicely and made it easy to follow, which was really needed in this episode. I love how they're building the mystery of the progenitors' tech and all the clues that's leading us to them, and then we got the whole story with Moen Locke and how they met and teamed up, their whole backstory. We're getting little bit-sized pieces of the full story each episode, allowing us to start making our own predictions of where the series is going, where it's going to end. I think that's what I enjoy most about what they've been doing, and why this episode is so good, is that they're not just feeding us all in just little bits of dialogue. They're actually showing us and letting us follow the story along with the characters.
They had some good action and fighting sequences in this episode that I thought were choreographed really well. I love the Moen Locke cloning effect when they went into there and they saw like they were all over the place. I absolutely loved that. And then they just basically had to charge in and start the fight and stuff like that. But then you get like that standoff, which kind of forces them to team up with one another in order to solve how to get off of the Enterprise. And then, when they lose their shuttle and everything, it's just like, well, how the hell are they going to get out of this one? It was so, I love a good story where it teams up some of our heroes with some villains. And they did this extremely well in this situation.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the fight within sickbay between Burnham and Locke. And I think the end of that fight leaves you with a sense of empathy. Like, I found myself in that fight scene not necessarily cheering on either adversary. It was more like I was hoping that the fight would stop. Right. Because you know what's on the line, and you know that it's somebody who's desperate, doesn't necessarily understand the consequences of what Locke is about to do. But it helps to kind of accelerate the tension when you're hoping that neither one gets critically injured. So it was very well written, I think.
It was. I do want to put out something very fun. I want to point out something very humorous from the last episode. Apparently, Rayner and Burnham learned their lesson. Instead of warping to the next room, they walked to the next room to talk.
Yes. Yeah. It's giving them a little bit of pause to use that automatic transporter. Yeah.
Like, all right, you learned your lesson. Well done.
I also liked now that you mention it, that discussion that they have initially before the mission begins. I feel like Rayner, the circumstance, did a great job of kind of pointing out, like, okay, hold on a second and take a breath. I know that you're talking about leading this away mission, but you're the captain. And one of my jobs as first officer, and personally my, concern for you, means that I need to try to protect you as much as possible. So are you taking a security detail? Does it really have to be you that's going? All this other kind of stuff. And I know that an undercurrent of that was, maybe some personal concerns from Rainer's perspective about being in charge. Uh, but I loved that it addressed something that has kind of been bothering me on a bunch of episodes about how often Burnham is on the away team or leading the away team or so crucial to it. Not that she's not doing an amazing job, but just like, but it's the captain.
Yeah.
He's correct, though. Riker had that same conversation with Picard back in the early seasons of Next Generation.
Sure
exactly the same concerns. He's right. He's as the first officer to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Scott, you did bring this up. I want to say it was the first episode that we talked about this season. You brought that up, and it's funny that they addressed that in this episode, which it needed to be done for sure.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like we're seeing growth in Raynor.
Yes.
Yes.
We saw a lot of growth last episode, but we're seeing it again in this one. When he's on the bridge and he's having to make some decisions and leaning on, the people on the bridge that he's not normally used to. But you just see he's almost nervous at times, but understands his role and his position. And he obviously doesn't want to make the wrong decision. So, he has to really put himself into a place that, he's got to lean on his crew. And it shows that in this episode.
And that was a great scene. The scene with him on the bridge with the rest of the crew, trying to come up with a solution. One thing I did notice about Raynor, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, he would not sit down in the captain's chair.
Oh, yeah?
He refused to sit down in that captain's chair. Never once did. He walked around it. He had his hand on it, but he never sat down. And I think that's a very interesting character trait that they've added to that character, Raynor.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but that is brilliant. I mean, he's so active and involved that it doesn't seem like he'd be content to sit still, but it also seems like kind of a sign of respect. Like, I'm here in this support capacity, but I'm not going to try to, replace or succeed.
Right.
I think there were two big growth opportunities that I was glad to see them take in Michael's sense, learning about the ballad from Raynor's culture and using that as a way to connect that shows, I'm as invested in you as I am in the rest of this crew. And it was used appropriately. It didn't seem like it was forced or anything else like that. By the same token, Raynor uses an aspect of his own personality that he started with the 20 words or less, and he uses that to practical effect with Stamets, which I think was great. It's kind of like almost if you're a writer for the franchise and you're just saying, okay, we're going to kind of cut the exposition down a little bit because we need to keep the scene moving along. So 20 words or less. And he says, okay, I get it. Here's the bottom line of what we need to do. That was really well done. And it was great to see those both used to show how they, their differences in leadership, but also how they use those to the right effect.
Yeah. Well, and Burnham uses that ballad to reach out to Raynor to say, hey,
so clever.
It's me here. This is what you need to do. Yeah, absolutely clever.
Yeah.
It's great that these little callbacks we're seeing them later on in each episode. Everything's starting to connect. But there is one thing. If I had any, I don't exactly want to call it a problem or anything with the episode. It's not specifically this episode. It all depends on where we're going here. I thought it was really neat that we saw the ISS Enterprise, but why? Why did we see it? Why was it here? What did it have to do with the overall story? It could have been any ship. It could have been the Valiant, the Defiant, which is the one that disappeared during the Tholian crisis. I will be really disappointed if they just ignore that and the whole mirror universe thing. It doesn't come into play somewhere in this storyline that's coming up. I hope that this doesn't just turn out to be one of those, wouldn't it be cool if we did this moment for the series? I want this to be part of this overall storyline. I want it to come back. And they're doing it with other stuff. I hope we see more of it.
Yeah.
I agree. I'd be surprised if that doesn't have some kind of connection to the Section 31 movie.
Yeah.
Or possibly even something we see in, Strange New Worlds when it comes back.
I hope it does. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, of course, after the wormhole imploded, we get to keep the ship, and they send it off because they're going to obviously probably try to fix it to use it.
A very old ship.
Yeah, a really great old ship. So I'm hoping you're right, Wayne. I hope that's going to come into play later down the road. I mean, we've only got, what, 5 more episodes to go?
Right.
So we don't have much room to wiggle with here. So I'm hoping they're going to do something with it, because why else would they show that scene at the end?
Right. I mean, that's why. I mean, as a standalone episode, watching it, you got to ask, why are we doing this? Why is this here? Is it just to be? Oh, we think this is neat.
Yeah.
But if they connect it to the story, then I'll appreciate this and the writers much more.
Yeah. I tell you another scene that I found very interesting too was we get a little bit of Tilly obviously recognizing something's wrong with Colbert. And, he starts to tell her something, but obviously stuff is happening and she has to take care of, helping with communications to, reach out to Burnham and stuff like that. But we get to see more of that at the end of this episode between those two characters. I like the fact that, Colbert is this one who's always been there, to help, to fix people and those kind of things. But, he needs it too. And Tilly recognizing that and, him actually reaching out to her, I think that was character growth for both of them too.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I liked the evolution of the Breen.
Yes.
It was welcome and surprising in so many ways. In terms of audio and visuals. So I think the effect that they use for the whatever you call it, voice processor for the Breen that we've always heard on DS9 was great to know that there's a choice that they can change that.
Much more defined in this episode.
Yeah.
With Deep Space Nine, it was just gibberish, and that's what it sounded like. It sounded like electronic gibberish. Here, it sounded a little bit more like it actually could be a language that could be understood.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's just, and I like the fact that Locke made him speak so she could understand him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was cool.
Yes. Yes. Interesting, they have new helmets. That caused me to have a little bit of a time slip because I was like, oh, is this before wait a second. No, this is after DS9. So they had evolved the helmets. There is still similarities, but obviously they lost the Return of the Jedi Bosch helmets. Probably because of trademark troubles with the Disney mothership. But when they took off their helmets, it was a callback to the first meeting of Locke where he had kind of that transformation moment. Seeing that they have a choice in the appearance that they take on, and just the look of them in that alternate look with the kind of the translucent look. It reminded me of the old Tron figures or the Crystar figures.
Oh yeah,
back when we were growing up.
I remember those. Yeah.
So I'd love to see one of those if they have the chance.
Yeah. Again, incredible special effects that they do with this series. This is fantastic. All right. Well, let's talk about which character we think shined the most. Scott?
To me, it's Cleveland Booker.
Okay.
His moment of sharing why he genuinely wants to help Maul. Reminding us that he lost Quajon, and the impact that has on him, and thinking of Maul as the last family that he has. And yes, he has a relationship with Michael, he has a lot of friends, but actual personal ownership and concern for Maul, and taking a chance to set right what his namesake got wrong as a father. Right?
Okay.
Feeling empathy for what's motivating her and trying to find a diplomatic solution to try to reach her instead of just, beating her to the next cliff.
Well, I think it's a twofer. I think this was Maul and Locke's story. We got to learn so much about them and their motivation for what they're doing. Why they want the progenitors' technology. It's quite a jump for their characters. We learned that they got the Breen bounty on their heads, which, like you said, it kind of give me a Hansel and Chewbacca vibe with them.
Yeah, it does.
And then we got to see the flashbacks where they met and why they were together, which I really appreciate the series doing rather than just some quick passing dialogue about it. It's making me sympathetic for these characters, and which makes me want to see them more, and that's a good sign of, or it's a sign of some great character development for the writers.
And it pulls you into the story more when you do it that way. You just give me some throw off dialogue. Okay, sure, fine, whatever. I'm not going to be as interested. But when you go back and actually show me those scenes, you care about showing us those scenes, then obviously that's going to make me be more involved with their story and who they are and who they're becoming. So yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. Absolutely.
For sure. What about you, Dave?
So for me, I got to go with Mole. We're finally getting to see those walls come down, and we get to see who she is and how much she cares about Locke. Because I mean, we know they care about one another, but we didn't know why or how or how deep that went. But I also got to give it to Eve Harlow, who plays Mole. I think she shined in this episode as an actress.
Yeah.
She really pulled off a lot in this one. Her care of Locke, and then having to deal with Booker. And then, when she comes back and then she sees that, Locke is injured, there's just so much going on in this episode for everybody, really. But for Mole, I think she is the one for me that shined the most.
In Star Trek, it has a tendency of giving, one-dimensional villain characters at times. She's definitely not one of them.
Oh, yeah, not at all. Not at all. Well, if you could be any character in this episode, who would it be and why? Scott.
Well, it's a character we didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to make a choice when choosing the two. I think you know where I'm going. Ultimately, I went with Detmer.
Okay.
Getting to fly the ISS Enterprise to its next destination with Owoshikun in command.
Interesting.
I love this pair and the relationship that they have. I'm a big fan of Detmer at the helm. Seems like it would be a fun trip for them, and there'd be plenty of time on that bridge to explore with not a lot of pressure. Possibly an interesting side story of getting from point A to point B. I hope it doesn't mean that they're not going to come back. I highly doubt it. But it would be great to be able to explore there. I also kind of wonder if I'm going to flub on the name of the doctor in Strange New Worlds that has a daughter that was kind of kept in a buffer.
Mbenga?
You remember who I'm talking about? Yes, Mbenga. Thank you very much. So I kind of wonder if there's something similar going on with the ISS Enterprise. I know that they said that everybody's evacuated, all the escape pods are gone, all this other kind of stuff, but it seems like there could be somebody hiding there, or at least trapped there. Something else that comes up. But
remember they found like the blankets and like the toy, and there's some stuff they were finding there that showed that people were living there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because the crew itself, I mean, they left that Enterprise a long time ago, because one of them became part of the scientist team that was looking for the progenitors. With the Romulans, and we got to learn a little bit about the other people, but we don't know what happened to them or who else was on that ship. I agree with you, David. It looked like someone else was on that ship.
Yeah.
I have a quick question though, Wayne, for you, and this might be more Easter egg. Just remind me, I've got a question in Easter egg moment. Okay. Wayne, who would you pick?
I'm going to choose Burnham this time. Kind of similar to your reasons, because she got to wander around the infamous ISS Enterprise. She got to sit in the captain's chair, the same chair that Mirror, Kirk, and Spock sat in. She rode the ship while it was being pulled out of the wormhole by that tractor beam, which was I loved that scene. I loved that effect. I just thought that was cool. I mean, and I thought always Sonequa Martin Green, I think she played the part beautifully, had such a great range of emotions here in this episode from beginning to end. I've always liked the character of Burnham from the beginning. I've liked the growth, and I love her this season.
Good choice. So for me, don't laugh. No, I want you to laugh.
Yeah.
It's Grudge. Because I get everything handed to me, and I don't have to do anything unless I want to.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I go with that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna give a Hoffman answer here, because let's be serious for a moment. I would pick Locke, to be serious. First off, he has a really cool look to him, but what he has to let go of in order, because he cares about Mole so much. And he has to go on the run with it. I mean, he even at first, doesn't want to, because he obviously knows what's going to be on them if they do, the bounty and those kind of things. So he kind of doesn't want to, but sometimes that love just gets in the way and makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And we get to see him, make that decision. But come on, he gets to have Eve Harlow on his side. So hey,
oh yeah,
can't complain about that at all.
Well, yeah, and you bring up a good point. Like, he's the reason he has a death sentence on him is, Maul would be not pursued if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good choice.
Thanks. All right. How about some Easter eggs, Wayne?
Oh, there were a few of them in this episode. But first, I want to mention off that for the second episode in a row, Doug Jones does not appear, and he's not credited. I hope we haven't seen the last of him. I'm starting to get worried, but hopefully he'll return with more of his story. But getting into the Easter eggs, this episode firmly established a lot of the history of the Mirror Universe from between the original series and Deep Space Nine. We learned that the Terran Empire, which we saw they first appeared in the original series Mirror. It survived well into the 24th century, but was ultimately defeated by the Cardassian Klingon Alliance, which is where we saw it when it appeared the second time in Deep Space Nine's episode Crossover.
Yeah.
I also found interesting that the plaque that Booker saw on the ISS Enterprise in the transporter room showed a star date of 32336.6, and showing that that's the date of the Enterprise escaped the Mirror Universe into the Prime Universe. That places that event happening about 9 years before the events of Encounter at Farpoint. It also states that on the plaque that the new High Chancellor was killed, which the High Chancellor was the Mirror version of Spock. Now, we already knew he was dead from the dialogue that Kira said in Crossover, but now from the what was on the plaque, we now know how and why he died and what happened next after that.
Interesting. Okay.
And also this episode, it's revealed that, as we said before, Locke is Breen. This is the first time in Star Trek history that we've seen a Breen without a helmet on.
Yeah.
They were first mentioned, the Breen, in name on an episode called The Loss from the Next Generation's fourth season. And then again, they were mentioned in Hero Worship and Star Trek Generations. We never actually got to see them on screen until Deep Space Nine's fourth season, the episode Indiscretion. And then they appeared throughout the rest of the series. The Breen had allied themselves with the Changelings and the Cardassians in the Dominion War. And they also appeared in an episode of Voyager, one episode of Voyager, and one episode of Lower Decks. It's nice now we have a face to the helmets that we've always seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also we've got Tilly was looking for the loose Cardassian bull. We found out on Deep Space Nine that they can be a real pain in the ass if they get into the wiring. And of course, I'm going to state the obvious here that the sets of the ISS Enterprise were just a reuse of the standing sets from Strange New Worlds. I just hope that they've cleaned them up before they started filming that series, because they were a mess.
Yes, they were. All right. So go ahead.
Well, so there's one thing I want to ask about, and I'm not too sure of it, and it makes me want to go back and watch Picard season 3. I feel like I remember. I guess what I'm getting at is the vial that they find that's part of the progenitor's next clue. I feel like when they showed the changelings being held in stasis, instead of being that that solid copper fluid, opaque fluid, I feel like the vials that they were being kept in, they were clear, and that maybe they were blue, but I'm not too sure of that. So there's part of me that wonders, are they going to say that what's contained in the vial is a changeling or has something to do with it? Just because we continue to see that that image of the progenitor, and the same person was the lead changeling in DS9. Might be interesting to see if that's part of the clue.
That would be what do they call that? A retcon or something? That'd be a real interesting thing if they do connect the two. I like that idea.
Is this the Hoffman prediction? The Whited prediction has done well so far this season. So is this the Hoffman prediction?
Sure.
All right.
Well, if it's Hoffman, then I'll just have to change my mind like 3 times, and then it'll fit. It'll be on brand.
Yeah, there we go. That works better. Yep. All right, gentlemen. So what are we seeing for next week? I believe the episode called Whistle Speak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not much.
No.
They showed that 1 minute clip, but there really wasn't much you can get off of that. So, it showed Burnham and Tilly on what looks like a primitive planet with some villagers, and one of them's very ill and having trouble breathing. It doesn't give you much to go. Although I hope that this means that Tilly's getting off the ship and we're going to see a lot more of her in the next episode.
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, I do kind of wonder, like, they have that respiratory condition that's taking a bunch of people out. I wonder if it's going to, come out that it's some kind of species that lives that way.
Yeah.
That, is every time you hear them kind of that kind of whine in their voice is actually another species trying to speak, and we just can't understand them.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And clearly we're going to have to deal with the Prime Directive. I know that was mentioned too, in that scene. So
yeah.
So it definitely looks like it's going to be an interesting episode. That's for sure.
It feels like it could be a self-contained episode. Not saying it's not going to connect to the rest of the story, but it feels like it could be a separate one-episode story from the rest of the season.
Yeah, it could be. All right. Well, Wayne and Scott, thank you so much for joining me on the bridge for another episode. It's always fun.
Likewise.
Always a pleasure.
As always, thanks to our listeners for joining us and listening us to talk Star Trek, what we love so dearly. Hailing frequencies are always open for you to share your thoughts and questions on social, where you can email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online at afilmbypodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're looking for more exclusive content and swag, send some Latinum our way through Patreon. See you next time for another episode of Phasers Set to Stun.